In the skies over the Pacific, one B-24 gunner did something no one else dared. He made himself invisible to the enemy. With every shot, he rewrote the rules of aerial combat, taking down 16 Japanese fighters while his squadron struggled to survive. This is the story of Technical Sergeant Arthur Beno, the deadliest and most innovative gunner you've never heard of, until now. At 7:30 in the morning on October 31, 1943, Technical Sergeant Arthur Beno crouched in the top turret of his B-24 Liberator over Hyeong, gripping the twin .50 caliber machine guns. The sky was fractured with clouds at 12,000 feet, and 29 Japanese Mitsubishi A-6M0 fighters were climbing toward his formation. At 32 years old, with 17 missions over enemy territory and 7 confirmed kills, Beno knew the stakes were deadly. The Japanese had scrambled nearly 36 fighters from the Gillim airfield to intercept the morning bombing raid. The pattern was all too familiar. Enemy pilots would spot the streaks of tracer fire from American gunners and follow those luminous paths straight back to the gunner's position. Most men never survived that first pass. Every B-24 gunner in the 14th Air Force loaded their belts the same way, 4 standard rounds, 1 tracer, repeated. The bright tracer bullets were supposed to help gunners adjust their aim. But to Beno, it was reckless. He could see exactly what would happen. Any fighter who noticed those glowing lines would find him, and kill him. Arthur Beno's skill wasn't accidental. He grew up in Bisbee, Arizona, a star athlete and the captain of his high school football team in 1928. After graduation, he worked as an electrician in copper mines, but his true passion was competitive shooting. Weekends were spent at rifle ranges, loading his own ammunition, studying ballistics, and practicing until his hands ached. By 1937, he placed 6th in the National Rifle Championship. In 1940, he took first place in the Arizona State Rifle Championship and served as president of the Bisbee Rifle and Pistol Club. When Beno enlisted in 1941, he was older than most recruits. The sergeant noticed his age, but more importantly, his extraordinary shooting record. He was sent straight to aerial gunnery school at Las Vegas Army Airfield in Nevada, where he graduated at the top of his class. Assigned to the 374th Bomb Squadron of the 308th Bomb Group, Beno deployed to China in early 1943 and became the top turret gunner of a B-24D Liberator nicknamed the Goon. The first time Beno examined his ammunition belts, he noticed something disturbing. Every 5th round was a tracer. He knew instantly that following standard procedure would be fatal. That night, under dim tent light, Beno carefully removed all tracer rounds and replaced them with regular ball ammunition. No glowing bullets, no hint of his position for the enemy. Other gunners thought he was insane. Beno only smiled, confident in his training. He didn't need tracers. He knew his gun, his ballistics, and his aim. When the morning came, Beno flew his first combat mission with pure ball ammunition. The Japanese Zeros approached fast, and he readied himself. His mind was steady, his fingers poised. Every principle of gunnery he had learned over 15 years of competitive shooting now faced its ultimate test. Would his unorthodox approach save his life, or end it? The morning of October 31st was crisp and tense. Beno's B-24 soared above Hyeong, and the threat was unmistakable. 29 Japanese Zeros closing in, their sleek frames cutting through broken clouds like predators. Beneath him, the formation of American bombers stretched across the sky, but Beno knew the danger was personal. Every flash of tracer fire from his comrades was a beacon for the enemy, but he had removed every glowing round from his belts. He was invisible. As the first Zero appeared below at 3,000 feet, Beno tracked it carefully through his reflector sight. His finger hovered over the trigger. His instincts and countless hours at the range told him exactly when to fire. At 1,000 yards, he squeezed the trigger. The twin .50s thundered. No tracers, no warning, just bullets tearing through the air at nearly 3,000 feet per second. The Zero's canopy exploded, the fighter rolled left, and smoke trailed from its engine. 1 kill. Before the enemy could react, Beno swung his turret to the next target. Another Zero came into view. A controlled 3-second burst, and the engine erupted in flames. 2 down, and the rest of the Japanese pilots had no clue where the fire was coming from. The rest of the squadron, still using standard tracer belts, drew attention to themselves, but Beno remained unseen. The battle escalated rapidly. Zeros attacked in waves, coordinating from every angle, nose, beam, and below. Beno's focus never wavered. His bullets found their marks without revealing his position. Another Zero's wing tore away. 3 kills. Then 4. By the time the engagement ended 8 minutes later, Beno had fired 640 rounds, his barrels glowing red from heat. 5 enemy fighters lay burning in the rice paddies below H-Haung. 2 more spiraled into the Gulf, smoke trailing. When the Goon finally touched down at Chang Kong Airfield, Beno's squadron commander was waiting. The gun camera footage confirmed it. 7 enemy aircraft destroyed by 1 gunner on a single mission, the highest score for any B-24 gunner in the 14th Air Force. Other gunners crowded around, curious and astounded. Beno simply showed them his ammunition belts, pure ball rounds. No tracers. The lesson was clear: the Japanese couldn't kill what they couldn't see. Within days, Beno's approach spread through the 308th Bomb Group. Half of the gunners removed their tracers within a week, 3/4 within 2. What began as a single gunner's ingenuity had evolved into a tactical revolution, saving lives and redefining how B-24 crews defended themselves in combat. But Beno's genius wasn't just luck. Years of disciplined marksmanship, understanding trajectory, wind, and lead, all translated to aerial combat. While other gunners relied on glowing pads to aim, Beno's invisible fire turned him into a ghost in the sky. By the end of that mission, the Halloween raid, the 14th Air Force had witnessed something extraordinary: 1 gunner, invisible, unstoppable, rewriting the rules of air combat. The Hong Kong raid, overwhelmed but unyielding 2 weeks later, on November 14, 1943, Beno prepared for a mission unlike any he had flown before. His B-24, the Goon, was loaded with 2,000 pounds of bombs and 6 500-pound incendiaries, destined for Hong Kong harbor. Intelligence suggested light resistance, a dozen Zeros at most, but Beno knew better than to trust predictions. As the formation lifted off from Chang Kong at 5:30 a.m., the early morning haze stretched across southern China. Beno ran a quick check of his guns, 1,000 rounds, all ball ammunition, ready to fire. No tracers. No visible trail for the enemy. The flight was long, nearly 3 hours to reach the South China Sea, and every mile added tension. At 8:12 a.m., as the bombers neared Hong Kong Island, Beno's worst fears materialized. 34 Japanese Zeros leapt from Kitiak Airfield into the skies above, more than he had ever seen at once. The enemy approached in disciplined waves, pairs attacking from the nose, others from the sides and below, a coordinated storm of steel and speed. Beno rotated his turret, tracking targets that seemed to materialize from every angle. The first Zero dove out of the sun, wings glinting in the light. Beno led the target, fired a 4-second burst, and watched flames erupt from the engine. 1 down. The second attacker came from the right. A precise strike to the cockpit sent the fighter spinning away. 2. A head-on pass from the nose gunner drew fire elsewhere, leaving Beno's turret free. 3 Zeros attacked from below, and Beno's quick reactions destroyed another. Within minutes, the formation was under siege. Bombers scattered across 10 miles of sky. Beno's methodical bursts were relentless, each shot measured and exact. While other gunners' tracer rounds painted glowing lines for the Japanese to follow, Beno remained invisible. The enemy couldn't see the source of the lethal fire. By carefully timing and controlling each burst, he took down multiple Zeros in succession, 4, 5, 6. The Japanese tactics, classic swarms overwhelming a single bomber, were nullified by Beno's calculated, unseen firepower. The Goon itself began to falter. Engine 3 lost oil pressure, Engine 4 overheated. Black smoke streamed along the wing. Falling behind the formation meant near certain death, but Beno stayed calm, covering the stragglers and continuing to fire. He faced wave after wave, 2 above, 2 on the beam, 2 below, and with just 400 rounds remaining, he methodically picked off attackers. Every second counted. Every shot was life or death. By the end of the engagement, Beno had destroyed 10 enemy aircraft in a single mission, while the bomber itself barely limped back toward China. The crew's survival owed much to Beno's skill and ingenuity. His invisible fire turned an impossible situation into a story of survival, innovation, and unmatched marksmanship. The skies over Hong Kong were chaos. Beno's B-24, the Goon, was under relentless attack. Engine 3 had failed, and Engine 4 was overheating, sending thick black smoke streaming across the aluminum wing. Hydraulic systems were failing, and the rudder was shredded. The formation had fractured, and the bomber was falling behind, alone against waves of Japanese Zeros. Survival now depended on every ounce of skill and every round Beno could fire. 6 Zeros peeled off from the main battle, converging on the vulnerable bomber. Beno counted them carefully, checking his ammunition, just 400 rounds left. 2 came from above, 2 from the sides, and 2 from below. Each fighter was approaching at breakneck speed, executing classic Japanese swarm tactics to overwhelm a single target. The first pair descended from the sun, engines roaring, wings catching the morning light. Beno led them by just 3 aircraft lengths, squeezing off bursts with deadly precision. The lead Zero's engine ignited in flames. The second rolled violently as fire tore through its fuselage. One by one, the attacking fighters fell under Beno's untraceable fire, disintegrating into smoke and fire before they could reach the bomber. Then came the beam attack. 2 tightly spaced Zeros opened fire at 1,200 yards. Their 20mm rounds tore through the Goon's left wing, spraying hydraulic fluid across the fuselage. Beno rotated his turret, firing with practiced control. His first burst missed, but the second struck true. The wing of the lead Zero collapsed, sending it spiraling down in flames. Another Zero attacked from below, but Beno's careful tracking destroyed it with a precise burst to its fuel tank. 9 enemy aircraft were downed in just 12 minutes. A 10th Zero maneuvered directly under the top turret, unreachable. Beno quickly reoriented to engage the climber above. At 140 rounds remaining, his guns jammed for 8 tense seconds. The enemy closed in. Beno cleared the weapons, reloaded, and fired. The Zero's tail disintegrated. Every shot counted. Every burst saved lives. Meanwhile, the Goon's crew faced imminent disaster. Engine failures and fire meant they were losing altitude at 300 feet per minute. Captain Skuzin, the pilot, kept the bomber level, fighting to maintain control. The order to prepare to bail out came over the intercom. The crew had no choice. Japanese patrols and tracking dogs were close below. Survival required courage, skill, and split-second decisions. One by one, the crew jumped. Beno descended last from the top turret. At 3,800 feet, he leapt, parachute opening at 3,000 feet. He drifted toward southern China, toward the unknown dangers that awaited him on the ground. The Japanese were patrolling below. Capture meant certain torture or execution. Beno pressed on northward, following his compass and training, determined to evade detection. After parachuting into southern China, Beno hit the ground in a dense bamboo grove, 17 miles northeast of Hong Kong. He rolled on impact, quickly cutting away his parachute harness and concealing the white silk under fallen logs. Visibility from the air could mean death. Japanese patrols were everywhere. His survival kit was modest: a small pistol with 8 rounds, a compass, water purification tablets, a silk escape map, and 47 in local currency. Every movement had to be calculated. Moving at night, avoiding villages and roads, Beno aimed for the mountains where Chinese guerrillas operated. By sunset, he had covered 3 miles, navigating steep, densely forested terrain. Voices from below forced him to freeze. He couldn't distinguish friend from foe. As darkness fell, he found thick underbrush to rest. Hunger gnawed at him. His last meal had been breakfast hours earlier, but he drank from a stream and waited for nightfall. By midnight, he continued north, following the ridge line toward free China. Exhaustion threatened him, but he pressed on, alert to every sound and shadow. After another 7 miles by dawn, Beno found a concealed hillside and attempted to rest. Sleep came briefly, 3 hours after more than a full day of combat, flight, and travel. But danger never slept. 6 Japanese soldiers approached within 50 yards, searching methodically. One carried a parachute, a clear sign of a downed airman. Beno pressed flat against the earth. The patrol passed without noticing him, but they blocked his intended route north. Hours later, he tried to circumvent them, only to encounter more soldiers. Dogs barked, picking up his trail. Panic surged. He ran, zigzagged, and finally reached a cliff with a river below. With no other option, Beno jumped. The 4-foot-deep river slammed him down, but the current carried him safely around a bend. Soaked, exhausted, and weaponless, Beno plunged into the forest. For 3 hours he dodged patrols, knowing the enemy had discovered his parachute. The network of Japanese troops, using dogs and radios, tightened a deadly net. By mid-afternoon on November 15th, after 32 hours without food and nearly 20 miles through mountainous terrain, Beno was trapped. Surrounded, exhausted, and defenseless, he surrendered. Japanese soldiers bound his hands and marched him to a forward command post. All they discovered were his identification tags: Technical Sergeant Arthur J. Beno, 374th Bomb Squadron, 308th Bomb Group. Japanese intelligence was aware of the raid on Hong Kong and sought detailed information. Beno, loyal to the end, revealed only his name, rank, and serial number. Nothing more. From that moment, Arthur Beno vanished into Japanese custody. Military records later listed him as killed in action on November 15, 1943. His body was never recovered. Only fragments of the story survive through archives and reports, but his legacy, his tactics, his kills, his courage, would echo through the 14th Air Force for months to come. The Goon returned from Hong Kong battered, its engine smoking, wings damaged, yet some of the crew survived thanks to Beno's unseen fire. Intelligence officers carefully reviewed the gun camera footage. They counted every confirmed kill, cross-checked with witness statements, and verified that Technical Sergeant Arthur Beno had destroyed 16 enemy aircraft over just 2 missions, a feat unmatched by any other B-24 gunner in the United States Army Air Forces. Fighter pilots might have received medals and fame for similar scores, but Beno's heroic actions remained largely invisible to the public eye. Beno's innovation, removing tracer rounds to become invisible to enemy pilots, transformed bomber gunnery tactics. Within days, his method spread through the 308th Bomb Group and eventually across other units in the 14th Air Force, the 10th Air Force in India, and the 20th Air Force flying B-29s. Losses among aerial gunners dropped dramatically, and the practice became standard procedure. New gunners were trained to strip their belts of tracers before their first mission. Official recognition came slowly. Beno was posthumously awarded the Silver Star for exceptional aerial gunnery and innovation, as well as the Legion of Merit for his influence on defensive tactics. He received the Purple Heart, killed in action, with the medals presented to his wife at a ceremony in Bisbee, Arizona. His 12-year-old daughter stood beside her mother, witnessing the honors for a father she would never see again. Local newspapers covered the event briefly, then the story faded. Despite this, Beno's contributions endured. Modern aerial tactics continued to avoid tracer rounds when revealing gun positions would create danger. Invisible fire, precision, and tactical ingenuity remained central principles in defensive operations. His innovations, born from one man's refusal to follow standard procedure, saved lives, changed military doctrine, and proved the power of skill over convention. Yet in America, Beno's name largely disappeared from public memory. Fighter aces filled history books and newsreels. Enlisted gunners like Beno, who had rewritten the rules of aerial combat, were remembered only in footnotes, though his influence quietly persisted across the Pacific theater. Monuments in Bisbee, Arizona, and in Nanjing, China honor his sacrifice and that of countless airmen who defended China from Japanese forces. The last photograph of Beno, standing beside the Goon at Chang Kong Airfield, shows a calm, composed man, arms crossed, the embodiment of mastery and focus. He was not seeking fame, he was seeking survival. Survival, mathematics, ballistics, and precision had saved him through 17 missions, earned him 16 confirmed kills, and altered the way the 14th Air Force fought its battles. Though his body was never recovered and his name faded from most textbooks, his story lives on through WWII Impact, rescued from the dusty archives, preserved for those who understand what true innovation and courage look like. Beno's invisible fire, disciplined skill, and refusal to follow convention left a mark on history, a legacy far greater than the medals or recognition he received. One man, one idea, 16 confirmed kills, and a method that changed the course of aerial gunnery forever. Arthur Beno may have vanished in occupied China at 32, but his influence endures. His story reminds us that sometimes survival, and heroism, depends not on courage alone, but on knowledge, preparation, and the daring to defy convention. If Beno's story amazed you, hit that like button. It tells YouTube to share these forgotten heroes with the world. Subscribe to WWII Impact and turn on notifications so you never miss a story about the men who changed history with courage, skill, and innovation. Drop a comment below and tell us where you're watching from, and if anyone in your family served. Let's make sure legends like Arthur Beno are never forgotten.